Coming up on today's show, the Falcons announced 2 defensive coordinator interviews. So we're going to go over both candidates. I'll tell you which one I prefer between the two, as they both have very strong resumes. But right off the jump here, make sure you scroll on down and click that subscribe button. We are on pace to come close to what we did in last January, but I want to exceed that. I want to see this channel continue to grow. I need your help. So if you enjoy free Falcons content, I invite you to scroll on down and click that subscribe button. Now let's get into the defensive coordinator search, as Atlanta has 2 interviews, starting with former Bengals defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo, someone that I have talked about on the channel before they even fired Jimmy Lake. We were already kind of wishful thinking that into existence, that they would make a change at the DC job. Lou has been at the forefront since day one for us here, so if you're subscribed to the channel, you would know that. But let's talk about the background for the former Bengals defensive coordinator, who was fired about 2 weeks ago, right after the season ended for Cincinnati, after 6 years in Cincy as their defensive coordinator. He's got an obvious connection to Atlanta, and it's the safety Jessie Bates, who he coached for 4 or 5 seasons when the two overlapped after Bates was drafted from Wake Forest and Anarumo was in the early goings of his DC job with the Bengals. When it comes to Lou, or as Jessie Bates calls him, the mad Italian scientist, I can get on board with this hire. I think Lou Anarumo is better than Jimmy Lake. And as long as the new guy is better than the old guy, we're at least making a good step forward. Now, obviously, you'd like to have as big of a step as possible, but I'm confident when I say this defense under Lou Anarumo would have been better in 2024 if he was the defensive coordinator and not Jimmy Lake. Plus, you've got an incredible duo that already had some awesome chemistry back in Cincinnati. You can look at Jessie Bates' stats from his 4 years with the Bengals, 2019 to 2022, and then he comes over to Atlanta, and all he does is put together a Pro Bowl and All-Pro campaign the last 2 seasons for the Dirty Birds. He has been one of the best players in football at forcing takeaways. 9 takeaways, 6 interceptions, 3 forced fumbles in 2023, and 8 combined in 2024. So you can just imagine how excited Lou would be to start working with his former stud safety and start getting some really good pieces on this Falcons defense in the draft and in free agency, because that is going to be priority number 1. And so it'd be nice to have Lou there trying to find some good players to join the Falcons defense. But on top of the connection to Jessie Bates, because that really shouldn't be the lone reason why you hire a defensive coordinator, he's got a really good track record at putting together some impressive defensive playoff performances. It is Lou Anarumo and the 2018 New England Patriots are the only 2 teams that have defeated Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, along with Buccaneers in 2020 in the Super Bowl. So you've got an awesome performance from Lou's defense in the AFC Championship game back in 2021. Mahomes, 2 takeaways, 2 interceptions. And on top of this game here, how about the next season? When they went to Buffalo, they played the Bills in the divisional round, and they limited Josh Allen to 0 touchdowns and 1 interception and 10 points. So if you're looking for a guy that can press the buttons when the pressure is on at the most important game of the year or close to it, he's got a good track record at not cracking under pressure. Now, his defense in Cincinnati, there are a lot of ways you can evaluate a defense. To keep it simple, we'll just go off of points allowed, and you can look at his 6 years. There was improvements made from year 1, 25th in scoring, to 22nd to 17th, all the way up to 6th, and that's when things were really riding high with Jessie Bates. And after that 2022 season, the Bengals started to realize, well, we kind of have a problem on our hands. And it's a good problem. We have too many good players. We got to find a way to pay Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. So they started making cuts, because that's what family-run businesses do. They do not have a bunch of wealth they can lean on to give out all this guaranteed money. So what was the first, sector of the business to get cut? The defense. Jessie Bates walks in free agency. Big-time mistake by the Bengals. I mean, look at the seasons he's had so far in Atlanta. I don't think you can justify moving on from Bates at this point. Plus, the guy they replaced Bates with, Daxton Hill out of Michigan, he's not even playing safety anymore for them. They had to move him to corner. So ultimately, well, I'm sure there's some blood on Lou's hands. He has shown that he can put together really good defenses, and ultimately, I think it was the personnel changes for the for the Bengals that really kind of dug him underground. Okay, overall, to kind of put a bow on it, I think it would be an improvement to go from Jimmy Lake to Lou Anarumo. I do have my concerns about some spotty years for Lou in Cincy, but I believe this defense will be better with Lou, so I'm on board if that's the hire. I'm not going to pitch a fit. I think it would be a wise addition. Second coordinator to keep an eye on, Wink Martindale, the Michigan defensive coordinator. He too is interviewing for the Falcons DC job. I believe he's interviewing today, and then he's going to, by today I mean Tuesday, and then he's going to Indianapolis to meet with the Colts. So we're going to talk about Wink Martindale and whether or not it'd be a good fit for him in Atlanta and my preference between these two. But first, I do have to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players. Basketball season is heating up, and Prize Picks is the place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. You can now win up to 1,000 times your cash over on Prize Picks. So, download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks also offers Venmo and MasterCard for quick and easy deposits and withdrawals into your account this season. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Let's talk about Don Wink Martindale. And quick side note, how do you get the name Wink from the first name Don? There's another Don Wink Martindale, is like an actor or some radio broadcaster back in the day. So someone let me know how you get the nickname Wink from Don. But I think this is a little bit of a big kind of swing attraction or a big kind of swing target, because he is a very successful coach who has had a lot of really good stops with the Ravens, most notably when he helped them win a Super Bowl. He was also their DC when they had some of the best defenses in football. And on top of that, there's not an obvious connection between Raheem Morris and Don Wink Martindale. And also, I don't think the two are all that similar from a personality standpoint. Like, Martindale is a hard-nosed, old-school style football coach. And Raheem Morris, I don't necessarily get that feel or impression of, right? I get a little bit more of a player's coach. So I think Morris is doing some real good soul-searching going, we need to shake things up. We need to bring some different ideas in. And that's why I think this is a big swing for the Falcons. Now, if you look at his 6 years as a defensive coordinator, most recently in the NFL, did not go super duper well with the Giants. Him and Brian Dable ultimately just did not see eye to eye. I'll also say the Giants, I don't think, are a well-run organization under GM Joe Shane, so not a lot of great talent to work with on the defensive side of the football. But you look back at his time in Baltimore, second best defense in points allowed, third best, second best. So 3 straight seasons of consistently being one of the best defenses. That is very difficult to do. And in his one season so far as the Michigan DC, I mean, top 20 defense, so you can't really be too upset with that. 19th in points allowed, 18th in sacks, 11th in yards allowed. So he did a very good job with, sure, taking over a very talented Michigan roster that just won the national championship, but it was also missing a lot of key players down the stretch. I mean, his best player, arguably, cornerback Will Johnson, only plays 6 games due to a turf toe injury, and they still go into Columbus and bottle up the Buckeyes offense, which is looking like it's going to win the national championship. So impressive stuff from his one season in college football. Plus, maybe working with college kids kind of softened him up a little bit, which might end up helping him out in the long run to get back in the NFL. Overall, super high ceiling with Don. I mean, we have seen that with his time in Baltimore. The Ravens defense was some of the best defenses in football while he was their DC. I think that they just wanted a bit of a change of pace and a new idea and a fresh ideas after things started to get a little bit stale. And that's just not uncommon. I mean, that happens in the NFL. I mean, good coaches ultimately move on because they are looking for something different, a new challenge. And we've seen plenty of successful coaches kind of hop around a little bit. And ultimately, you're in a profession where good coaches get fired. That's the dealio. That's the price of doing business. But I believe that with Martindale, there's a very, very high ceiling for what this defense could achieve that we saw in Baltimore. So if you were to pick the next Falcons DC, who would it be? Lou Anarumo or Don Wink Martindale? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm going to give you my pick in just a moment, but I want to hear from you first. So scroll on down and let me know who you want to see be the next defensive coordinator. I would go with Wink Martindale. I believe that what we saw out of Baltimore's defense with him at the controls is just too exciting to pass on. And while I do like Lou Anarumo, and I've spoken positively about him on the channel in the past, I ultimately believe that Don Wink Martindale is just a better overall coordinator, and it would also bring in a new flair to this coaching staff because under Raheem Morris in year 1, he hired a lot of his buddies. Year 2, he ain't messing around. Now, I wish he learned that lesson before he got his second head coaching stint, but he brought a lot of coaches over from LA with him, but he's wasting no time right now. He is pursuing some of the best coordinators available, and I think Martindale has the edge. Before we sign off, we did have a super thanks come in about a week ago from my main man, Anthony Mays. Do you see the Falcons making a splash in free agency on offense? T. Higgins has linked to Atlanta since last year. He reminds me of an upgraded Mohamed Sanu. Atlanta has been linked to Tyreek Hill recently, off the field issues. Georgia native. What's more likely, Higgins or Tyreek? What's more likely? Neither, honestly. If I had to pick one, I would say T. Higgins. He's just that much younger than Tyreek Hill, and that's the driving factor here. Neither player had 1,000 yards last year, but I think T. Higgins is probably headed for a better trajectory just based on his age alone as Hill starts to compete with Father Time, get to the wrong side of 30. I don't believe either player is very likely to come to Atlanta. I think it's just too expensive when it comes to trade capital for Tyreek Hill. The Falcons only have 5 picks to work with. They really want to dedicate one of those picks to an older, expensive receiver? Unlikely. And as for T. Higgins, he's just going to be expensive on the open market. So I don't think either one is going to happen. If I had to pick one to be more likely, I guess I'd give the 1% chance to T. Higgins because of his age. That would probably pique Atlanta's interest a little bit more, having 5 years on Tyreek, but I would not put much stock into either one coming to ATL. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see everyone tomorrow.